So here's the next part of our discussion.
The one that was driving her to stay alive in order to find me. She hadn't even told the family until 10 years prior to meeting me.
Wow.
Didn't even know. And so when we met, there was this wonderful connection that we had, and my wife had to laugh because there were so many personality quirks that we shared, right? Not knowing, and I saw them too, and it was hilarious. And yet there was this angst that she carried for decades that I would imagine all birth mothers carry some of.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's something that is rarely able to be resolved because there's no listening, there's no talking, there's no referential points of view, mother, child, right? Being able to find that negotiating space, if you will, to get through the emotional quagmires that could be there. First of all, to expose them, to ask the questions to get them there, and then to actually have a conversation about it without conversation with presence.
Yes, I think the thing is, so I was very lucky in that my mother died 20 years ago, and my birth mother contacted me 5 years ago. So there was no conflict in my mind, and also there was no question that my family and my family. You may have given birth to me, but she had that angst, and when she reached out, I immediately responded and phoned her, and then we had set up a meeting and blah, because I was conscious of that deep trauma of having to give up a child. So I think I don't know how I'm going to edit this, but the concept of this show is that I'm going to clip it down about adoption, and anyone that can share it on their channels can share it, because hopefully across our various followers, other adopted people, other parents wanting to adopt, people that have lost children, all these people we can help. And the connection of Rachel and Zen and Marissa, I think, could make a big difference. Last points, keep them to 60 seconds. Let's go Shirin first.
What must we keep? Sorry.
Last 60 seconds to close out the show from your perspective.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I know, contrary to the fact that I haven't been adopted, I think what's really important, and I think for myself, is that if I had to put myself in the perspective of having an adopted child, or if I had an adopted child come to me, I think that's the real thing. Is if you've ever given a child away, you really need to deal with a lot of the emotions that are going to follow through on that, and the child is going to try and find you, almost guaranteed. And so you really need to be prepared for being able to answer those questions in a way that allows them to feel as though, allows them to feel that they were loved, because I think that's what they're craving for, the fact that Absolutely. They were loved and they weren't just thrown away. And I think that's something that's really important. And so I think you need to be very, very sure of how you're going to say that, how you're going to do it. So,
beautiful.
Speak to Rachel and Marissa.
Zen.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you very much. Zen, seeing as you're determined to jump in on other people's mics, you can go next.
I'm still that little kid that hadn't learned boundaries yet, right?
No shit, Sherlock.
And I apologize, and I appreciate your, the understanding.
I love your energy.
So, and thank you. I love you too. And all of you. This is an impactful, wonderful opportunity to come together and share the intricacies of the importance of being aware of the various aspects of an adoptee, of the adopted, and the parental, the adult versions of all of these emotional things that you'd mentioned, that Shireen, that need to be in place, and need to be discovered, questioned, that we need to be curious about, because those curious questions lead to further deepening of the relationships and understanding. And as I jumped in with the, all we really want is to love and be loved.
Yes.
Right? Whether we're adopted or not. Right? That every one of us just wants to love and be loved. Well, I think adoptees kind of get that a little bit more than most. And because we're questing after this family, and that family turns into a global scale for some of us. I know it has for me, because of the work that I do. That's why I chose to take it. It's like, okay, and not only a planetary connection, but what else is out there? How big is our family?
I think we should leave it there. That's a line to end on. How big is our family? Everyone, everywhere.
But I'll leave it there. Thank you,
yeah,
Jonathan.
Marissa.
So I think, as an adoptive mom, I think we need to change the perspective of adopting a child. Because right now it's always, oh, these children need to be adopted. And when I adopted my son, and when people find out he's adopted, they're like, oh, you're such a brave soul. I could never adopt, or you're doing such a good thing for humanity. I adopted because I was selfish. I wanted to be a parent. That's why I adopted. And I think if we change the perspective on why we should adopt, because I had so many friends and, in my community groups that I had joined for infertility, who desperately wanted to be a parent, but refused to adopt because whatever stigma they had, that they didn't think it was going to fulfill what they were trying to achieve. And I think adoption and adopting a child, for me, was about wanting to be a parent and wanting to love a child and wanting to raise a child and nurture a child. And I think when we talk about, adopting children in the communities, it's not about this poor child needs a home. It's about, let's create a family. What do you want? What are your needs as a parent or wanting to be a parent? And what does this child need? And how do we align that? How do we change the conversation around that so that more children can get adopted and more people can become parents?
Very powerful.
I'll leave it at that.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Rachel, final word from you.
Well, what you guys said was all beautiful. I was deep in thought listening to everything that you guys were saying. Please understand that we adoptees are we're our own people. We have our own voice. Please stop speaking on our behalf unless you're adopted. That's really important. Please understand that there's gonna be many of us, and I can't say this many of us because I've studied this deep. And so, I studied psychology in university, and I minored in psych and gender study. But we never fit in because we've gotten shuffled. Right? It doesn't matter what time, whether we were 11 months old, 4 years old, it doesn't matter at this stage of that. Please give us the right to speak for ourselves. And if that's not who we are strong. We are people who have had to conform, who've had to fit in, who've had to be molded into what people think we are. So just listen.
Very good, very good. This has obviously been a deep and extensive conversation that's gone in many different directions, and how I'm going to edit it, I don't know. However, we want anyone out there who is adopted, anyone who's thinking to adopt, anyone who wants to have a child, anyone who has an experience and feels pain from it. This book, The Primal Wound, which Rachel recommended to me, is a very powerful read, and I recommend it to you. This is Jonathan McDonald from Potency.World, and I'll see you on another recording.